Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a happy good morning to you wherever you are. This is a Clara Luper radio show, and today's show is being brought to you by Chances Jardina's Daycare Center. If you're talking about training your child, if you're talking about putting your child in a program with a head start, then I ask you to think in terms of Chances Jardina's Daycare Center, owned and operated by Mr. and Mrs. Paul Matthews, located in the heart of Oklahoma City, 1543 Northeast 50th Street. The telephone number is 424-4656. Happy Martin Luther King Day. This is a day that we pause on the doorsteps of history to look at one of America's great leaders. And we invite you today to participate in this program. Call a friend and tell your friend that the Clara Luper radio show is now on the air. This show is made possible today by your exclusive Allstate insurance agent, Marilyn Hildred. If we are talking about insurance, let's talk about Marilyn. 843-0811, 427-8399. Let's talk about life insurance, home insurance, automobile insurance. Let's talk about insurance, and when we talk about insurance, let's talk about Marilyn Hildred. Today's program is a program where we celebrate the birthday of Martin Luther King. And we're going to do this by inviting you to join us in this celebration. Today at 1 o'clock, we would like for you to look at Channel 5 at the AXO program. And as you look at it, we want you to become involved in it. The Oklahoma City NACP Youth Council has been involved in it for a number of years. And as you look at that program, if you would like to be a part of it, call us. The telephone number is 424-2384 or 424-3949. Let's talk about Martin Luther King Jr.'s National Holiday Celebration. It is our hope that at every church tomorrow, the name Martin Luther King will be mentioned. The fact that it is his birthday, it should be mentioned in every Sunday school class, in every church service. Please think about Martin Luther King tomorrow. At 11 o'clock tomorrow, we invite you to 5th Street Baptist Church, where Ann Slaughter will be presenting I Have a Dream by Martin Luther King, with backup from the music department. At 3 o'clock tomorrow, after church, there will be a parade that's sponsored by the Progressive Missionary Society. You are invited to participate in this parade, and it will start at Northeast High School, and it will end at that big rally at St. John's Missionary Baptist Church. You are invited to be present. Reverend Mims will be delivering the Martin Luther King address. On Monday, January the 18th, 1993, they call it a parade and memorial in memory of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. At 8:30 a.m., you are to start lining up your parade floats and groups. That's at 23rd Street and Martin Luther King. Now, we're talking about Monday. At 9 o'clock, there will be a program at Ralph Ellison's library. The presentation of colors by the Oklahoma Air National Guard. Invocation by our Rabbi Packman. I have the opportunity to deliver the welcome and some comments. There will be a proclamation from the city of Oklahoma City by our own Councilman Goree James. Parade instructions will be given by Roosevelt Milton. The parade marshals, Mr. Toure and Mr. Wayne Thompson. Lift Every Voice and Sing by James Weldon Johnson will be delivered by a group of troop youth singers. And at 9:30 a.m., there will be a kickoff, a parade to the Capitol. At 10:30 a.m., let freedom ring at the State Historical Society. Honorable David Walters, Governor of the state of Oklahoma. Martin Luther King Day proclamation from the state of Oklahoma. 11 o'clock a.m., there will be a national bell ringing. A salute to Dr. King all over this nation. There will be a memorial on Capitol South steps if the weather is favorable. If not, it will be inside. There will be drums by Jeruba and the drummers. Invocation by Father Mark Mason of the Corpus Christi Catholic Church. And the speaker's the theme, Building Bridges, We Are All the Right Color. African American Reverend Lynn Mims, Native American Richard Whitman, Asian American Vien Tra, Hispanic Americans Wilfredo Sata Rivera, European American Donna Compton. There will be poetry and drumming performance, and then the benediction will be given by Brother Townsend of the Church of God, We Shall Overcome. Now, you are invited, and you didn't have to be invited, but you are expected to participate in these ceremonies. On Sunday night at the temple, Dr. Ernest Dr. Ernest Holloway. And when I think of him, I should think of Hollywood because he is our star. He is our president. He's a man that we will never forget. He will be delivering the Martin Luther King address. Now, that's Sunday night. And I would like to thank the young Methodist youth that have invited me to be their speaker at that camp. I really appreciate it, and I will be there to participate in that service at 8 o'clock. At Fifth Street Baptist Church, the young people will be presenting a program on Monday night, and you are invited to be there. This is the Clara Luper radio show. This is Martin Luther King's holiday special. Well, this is a holiday special, and you're waiting. And in Phoenix, they had a big breakfast sponsored by the AKAs for Martin Luther King's birthday. Last night, Avery Chapel African Methodist Episcopal Church presented one of the great speakers of America, the Honorable Representative Floyd H. Flake, that took the crowd off of their feet. One of the greatest speeches that has ever been delivered. And certainly those of us that had an opportunity to hear him again was certainly proud. He brought to our attention the condition that we are in today. And the most interesting part of it, he didn't only bring it to our attention, but he showed us how we can wake up. Wake up, he cried, and invest in us. Wake up. Build some bridges. What a speech. Floyd H. Flake, the young man that became a member of the House of Representatives after Shirley Chisholm. We're going to take some time today, and we're going to look at the Martin Luther King celebration. And don't forget what will happen in Moore, Oklahoma, that big celebration. And this is your last Saturday, that you will have the opportunity to make pictures. You have your pictures made free at Freedom Center. Happy Martin Luther King holiday comes from Gates Barbershop, your hometown barbershop, located at 2609 North of Martin Luther King A. You don't have to call and get an appointment. All you will have to do is to walk in the barbershop and say, Mr. Gates, I'm here. And when you walk in, you're going to see a sign which states, we make people beautiful. We make people beautiful. Don't take his word for it. Let him cut your hair. And when you leave out of there, you turn around and say, "You're right, Mr. Gates. You're right, Mr. Gamble. You do your job well." In fact, Mr. Gates and Mr. Gamble believe in doing their job so well that no one else could do it better. Happy Martin Luther King Day comes from Dr. A.L. Dow, 934 Northeast 8th Street in Oklahoma City. Now, Dr. Dow will be closed on Monday, but you may call him on Tuesday, 235-0536. Dr. A.L. Dow, 934 Northeast 8th Street. He's known as everybody's optometrist. If you really want to see, and you gotta see, if you are interested in your children developing to their fullest potentials, let them go to Dr. A.L. Dow and get their eyes tested. Wouldn't it be a tragedy if you're saying that my child can't read, and it will be because maybe he couldn't see? Well, Dr. Dow will fit him up. Take your child there. And the federal government has it so arranged that if you're getting any kind of check from the federal government, that the federal government will give you some special deal. Go to Dr. Dow and let him talk to you about it. Don't be afraid to ask. Somewhere it's written, "Ask and it shall be given." Dr. A.L. Dow, 934 Northeast 8th Street. It's time now for us to start thinking about what are we going to eat on Martin Luther King Day, Monday. What are you going to have? On Thanksgiving you had turkey, Christmas you had ham, New Year's you had black-eyed peas, and I know you're having good luck. But what are you going to eat on Martin Luther King's holiday? I want you to be sure and call me and let me know. Happy Martin Luther King holiday. From Elite to Repeat, 7308 Northwestern in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Elite Repeat, 7308 Northwestern in Oklahoma City. Martin Luther King said, "I've been to the mountaintop. I've seen the promised land. I might not make it with you, but as a people, we will make it to the promised land." And every time I go to Crossroads Chrysler, every time I see what a black man has been able to do in this capitalistic society, when I see a man that owns a dealership right in my own city, Mr. Frank L. Rucker Jr., who owns the Crossroads Chrysler Plymouth Company, located at 208 Southwest 7th Street, or I-240 at South Walker. I said only God could do that. And I want you to go out, and if you want a new car or a used car, go to Crossroads Chrysler Plymouth, 208 Southwest 74th Street in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. In the next day and a half, we will be doing a lot of talk about Martin Luther King. I shall give you first my interpretation of what this holiday means, why the holiday, and then I want to ask you a question, and that will be the center of my broadcast today. It will be the center because unless we look at the real meaning of this holiday, what is it all about? Is it a day that we don't have to go to work or don't have to go to school? What does it really mean? Martin Luther King's story is a continuous story of man's desperate struggle to be free. Martin Luther King had a dream. So did millions of others. Martin Luther King dreamed of a better day for all people. His dream goes on. And there are many people that believe in his dream and work toward his dream. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about another dreamer. It's a little boy in Oklahoma City that dreamed of playing the piano. Did a great job. He dreamed of playing an organ and brought so much happiness to so many people. But on yesterday, Leroy Hicks died. I would like to repeat another dreamer. Leroy Hicks died yesterday. a dreamer, dreaming of a better day and making people happy, teaching hundreds and hundreds of students at Douglas High School, making a record, or making records. Leroy Hicks is dead. Leroy Hicks died yesterday. His body is at Roth's funeral home. It all seems like a dream, but this young man dreamed of becoming a great pianist, and his dream was fulfilled. You know, so many times we need to pause and we need to do something for people while they live, because we as a people are professional in waiting till people die and say some good things about them. And many of you know that I have often played Leroy Hicks's songs with his choir Douglas on this show, and I saluted him while he lived. And that brings my attention to the fact that on February the 6th, at 6 p.m. at the Greater Sap Institutional Church of God in Christ, 2214 North Bryant in Oklahoma City, there will be a celebration, and I'm going to ask one of my own to tell me about this celebration. Will you tell me, Mrs. Downing, about this particular celebration?
Miss Luper, a group of community friends and relatives, we've come together to express our appreciation to one of God's dedicated servants. And you know, as you were saying a few minutes ago, too many of us wait till people are sleeping in yonder soil, and we have so much to say then about them. Well, we thought, and this group of people, because this lady, Sister Rosa May Harris, she plays for prisoner ministry. I mean, just all over Oklahoma City, all over the state, doing God's work for over 42 years. And what we're asking is that the community and churches will join in with us. They've also formed a community choir. And the rehearsal will start Monday, February the 1st through Friday the 5th at 7 p.m. nightly. And we are asking that they join in with us, and let's make this lady very happy, one of God's soldiers, one of God's long-time workers for the Lord. And if it ever was a time that we need to tell each other we love you and show it in action, because Miss Luper, you're a firm believer that if we say we love each other, it need to be expressed in our action and in our attitude. Well, this young lady, Sister Rosa May Harris, is a very deserving person, and not selfish with her service, not selfish at all. She played for funeral homes, at funeral times when they needed somebody. I tell you, she is just a lady that is truly involved.
Geraldine, she played, Mrs. Rosa Harris played for Miss Black Oklahoma and did such a wonderful job. I think we owe it to ourselves. I don't think it would be a matter of making Mrs. Harris happy. It will make us happy because we are doing something. Here she has brought music to us, and music is the language of the soul. And let's go back over because I want this community to rally to Mrs. Harris.
Thank you, Miss Luper. But this is why you've been blessed. I want to share something about you right this minute. The reason why God has really blessed you, I've never seen a time that you haven't always tried to motivate others in their endeavor. And again, back to Rosa Harris. As Miss Luper said, she have brought music to all of us. So any of us call on her, Rose is right there. I talked with the city councilman. He said, yes, little Rose. You see, isn't that wonderful? And we're looking for our city councilman. We are looking for our state representative to come and share in such a great celebration with us. Now, it's going to take place February the 6th, 1993 at the 6 o'clock hour at the Greater Saps Institutional Church of God in Christ, 2214 North Bryant in Oklahoma City. The proud elder Levi Lindley is the pastor. Yes, he is the pastor. He feels very honored that he can have part in such a great celebration for one of God's soldiers.
I would like to remind everyone that this is very important that we do it now. We just don't do enough of it. And I would like to extend my congratulations to Mrs. Rose Harris. One thing I like about the way she plays the piano, she plays it with such ease.
Well, Miss Luper, that's her dedication style. You know, it's just some things we can't do at ease, but when the love of God is in your soul, honey, you can be at ease because the Holy Spirit works all through you.
Now, let's see now. This would just be one day, right? And that would be on February the 6th.
Yes, and they'll be having rehearsal those other days. Can
Okay,
you
let's go over when they will have rehearsal for those who can sing.
All right. Now, rehearsal will start February the 1st through Friday the 5th, and it'll be 7 p.m. nightly. Now, the rehearsals will take place at the Ebenezer Baptist Church, 36 North Kelly, and the pastor is Reverend Kim Brown.
Reverend Kim Brown.
It's going to be at his church. Yes, that's where the rehearsal's going to take place.
And what is that address again?
That address is 3600 North Kelly.
All right, and I would like to tell Mrs. Brown I would like for her to come over to my house and play my organ because my children have been laughing at me because I bought an organ and can't play it. Oh, I don't mind them laughing because that's all they can do, laugh. They can't play an organ, too. They can't play an organ either. And once again, a salute to Mrs. Rosie Harris will be given by her friends in the communities and relatives. Now, although I will not be here, I just looked at my schedule, and I'm scheduled to be in Cameron University on February the 6th, but I will be represented there.
God bless you, Miss Luper, and I thank you for giving us this time on your show. May God forever bless you, Miss Luper, and I know that He is because the kind of woman that you are, God will continue to smile on you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of my students, and as Senator Porter put it so mild, well, every time you start talking about Clara Luper, one of her old students start talking. Well, that you're exactly right. I would like to also extend congratulations to our new county assessor. I had the opportunity to visit with him at length, and certainly I would like to wish him the best. Would you like to wish your county assessor the best?
Senator Pass E. Melvin Porter, may God bless you and forever take God before you, and I'm sure you will do a great job. Whatever you set out to do, you've always did it good, and especially if you put God before you, you can. So congratulations to this position.
It's a Martin Luther King weekend, and today we take a deep look into the pages of American history and look at people that have had a dream. During the past week, I've had the opportunity to be interviewed by various radio stations and television stations about Martin Luther King. And one thing that amazes me about many of my friends that happen to be white, they always ask a question. Do you think Martin Luther King's dream, do you think Martin Luther King did any good? Do you think his dream is becoming a reality? But it seems odd that on July 4th, on the day that we celebrate Thomas Jefferson's Declaration of Independence, no one asks the question, do you think the Declaration of Independence is going to work? Do you think that Jefferson is going to live? Do you think this? Well, what we've got to do as people is to realize that Thomas Jefferson's Declaration of Independence was that all men are created equal. Is that working? That's what I would like to ask you, and that's what I ask back. Is it working? And when you have zero and you walk 1 mile, that's progress. And I want that to soak in. And you talking about progress. As a people, we have made progress. Don't let anybody fool you. I think the fact that I had the opportunity last night to listen to Representative Flake, that's progress. That's progress. I had the opportunity to talk to a county assessor. That's progress. I had an opportunity to see many elected officials. That's progress. And then I had the opportunity to eat at the Lombardo restaurant in Phoenix, Arizona. That's progress. How do we measure progress? By looking at the history of the people. In 1600 and 1920, blacks came to America. And these blacks, although they were in chains, they had dreams of being free. And I want the message to go out now that Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday celebration is just a continuation of man's desperate struggle to be free. Man's desperate struggle to be free. And this holiday has been celebrated for many years in the minds and the souls of black people that dreamed of a holiday when they were there. There was no holiday. I never shall forget, I had the opportunity to speak at Indiana State University, and they were talking about Martin Luther King the Dreamer, and certainly that was a theme of the entire meeting. And one very distinguished white PhD say it. It's really interesting to note that Martin Luther King was the first black dreamer. At that moment, I went into my book of history. And I thought about the Harriet Tubmans, the Frederick Douglass, the Nat Turners, the Marcus Garvey. I thought about all of those people that dreamed of freedom. I thought about Dred Scott, who stood in the Supreme Court of the United States in 1857. And somebody asked him before he walked in, "How do you feel, Dred?" And Dred said, "Sometime I feel like I'm going to be free. Dream of being free, and then sometime I don't know." But then when that judge handed down that decision and said that Dred Scott was not a man and had no business in the Supreme Court, Dred Scott picked up the telescope of time and looked and said, someday somebody's going to stand in front of the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to say, you are free. Oh, what a dream. But I had the opportunity to tell the people at Indiana State University that my people were dreamers. That was expressed in their songs. Listen to this song. Listen at the words. I got shoes and you got shoes, and didn't have shoes at first, but they sang about it. That was a dream. Listen to this. Swing low, sweet chariot. Didn't even own a horse or a buggy or a wagon. But they saw those chariots, those Buicks and those Cadillacs, and I think that's commendable. And then I told them about my daddy, because when I was in high school and they asked me my father's occupation, I didn't know, and I went home and asked my daddy, and my daddy told me to go back to school and tell them that he was a pilot. And I went back, and the teacher laughed at me, the students laughed at me, but I stood there so proudly. My dad is Ezel Shepherd, and he's a pilot. And they laughed at me. I went back home and told my daddy, and my daddy told me what to tell those teachers, the teacher and the students. And I went back the next day and I said, yes, my daddy is a pilot, and he told me to tell you that he's a pilot. He piles dirt here, and he piles it there. That's a pilot. Clara Luper, on behalf of her daddy, Ezel Shepherd, who was a pilot. What's going on up to McGuire Plaza?
Oh, Miss Luper, I'm so glad you asked. You're talking about knowing people with a dream, knowing someone, and I know somebody else that had a dream, Mrs. Clara Luper. And I'm happy as I sit here today to think about your dream that you had. Many of our jobs, many places we can go today is because of your fight and the dream that you had. Putting God before you. I know it wasn't easy. Many people laughed at you, but you see, doors were open. Yes, if you have a dream, you can make your dream come true. But you have to have a determination, and you have to have a conviction. You have to believe what you stand for is right, and you have to stand there even if you stand falling, knowing what is right. Yes, Miss Clara Luper. February the 26th at the 4 p.m. hour. You have always been our guest at McGuire Plaza, coming there now it'll be from 1955 to 1993, to tell us what new have taken place and what doors have been opened.
Oh, I'm invited to come back this year.
Yes.
I've been there for years.
You're right. But you know why you have to constantly come back? Our theme is Great Heroes of America. And I can't think of any other great heroes of America than Clara Luper. Honey, we're proud of you in Oklahoma City, and don't you ever forget it.
Well, I'm not going to forget how proud you all are of me, because that Black History Monument really tells a story not of Clara Luper, but of people that participated. Now, this is what I want you to do. I want everybody that's interested in Black history. Now, I can understand your songs, I can understand your talk, but I'd like for you to walk up to that monument and look. I want you to look at the Ben Tiptons. I want you to look at the A. Willie Jameses, the Theodosia Crawfords, the Ira Holmes. I want you to look at all those people that have made a contribution. And somebody asked me, he said, why is it that people didn't make a fuss over Martin Luther King and your monument and things like they did Elvis Presley? I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to ask you, what do you think of it? Do you think enough of the Black History Monument to mention it on Sunday? To mention it at your various activities, to let people know that in Oklahoma we have a monument dedicated to black people, not one black person, but black people. I want you to remember that. And let me get back on Martin Luther King and what I want to ask you. Now, we know about Martin Luther King. I told you about my daddy's dream. Martin Luther King dreamed of a day when there would be no discrimination. I want to know from you, and I want you to call me 672-1220. What are you going to do about Martin Luther King's dream? Now, that's the only issue. You out there, you're white, you're Indian, you're Hispanic, you're black. What are you going to do about his dream? Now, it's good to talk about Martin Luther King. It's good to march about Martin Luther King. But I want you to tell me what you are going to do about his dream. And let me tell you what he did. In the first place, he prepared his own mind. Martin Luther King read books, not funny books, but books. Prepared his mind, finished high school at the age of 15, and here you are dropping out of school with a big X on your shirt talking about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. I want you to get down to the nitty gritty. What are you going to do about him? I never heard Martin Luther King use a profane word. You around here cursing with a big X and a big Martin Luther King and talking about our heroes. What are you going to do about Martin Luther King's dream? That's what I want to hear from you if you have the courage to call me at 672-1220 and tell me about his dream. Many of you have taken money from the churches, taken gifts from church people, went and got you a little college degree, got in somebody else's condo or apartment, haven't looked back toward the church. Martin Luther King did not forget his church. He did not forget his training. I want to know, what are you going opportunities, and you don't even have sense enough to know that job opportunities are available. Somebody sitting down saying, well, I can't do this. Invent something. George Washington Carver did, and he sure didn't have no mother and father at home. I'm talking about Martin Luther King's dream. First, I'm saying that Martin Luther King took care of his own mind. He didn't mess up his mind. And I have so many of you that are calling me in prison saying, Miss Luper, they made me do it. Who are they? They don't make you do anything. They don't eat for you. They don't sleep for you. And you tell me that you are in jail because they made you do it. I'm asking you about Martin Luther King's dream. And anybody that's poor has no business in jail because you don't have no money to get out on bond. Your mother doesn't have any money. Your grandmother doesn't have any money. Don't have no money to pay a lawyer. And who you think gonna come down there and represent you and you don't have a penny? You are dreaming. It takes a lot of research. I'm asking you about Martin Luther King's dream. Are you going to dream about robbing somebody? That's not Martin Luther King's dream. That's your dream. Robbing somebody. Can you imagine laying on your behind waiting until somebody buys some televisions and some radios, and then you slip in somebody's house and steal that stuff? That's not a dream. That's a nightmare. If you don't believe it's a nightmare, go down our jails and see how many people are down there because they are stealing something. I think during Martin Luther King's holiday, we can look at life as it is. And Martin Luther King believed in taking care of himself. In fact, Jesus, somewhere I read it says, love thy neighbor as thyself. Do you love yourself well enough to keep yourself out of jail? Do you love yourself well enough to try to use the time you have to help somebody else? And one thing about Martin Luther King, he was committed to social changes. Are you a freedom parasite to wait till somebody else go to jail, wait till somebody else march, and then you go down and order your big steak? Is that Martin Luther King's dream, or was his dream that everybody would help anybody? I don't believe you have nerve enough to call me out here, 672-1220, and tell me what you're going to do about Martin Luther King's dream. Do you think anybody will call me?
They should, Miss Luper, really.
I know you're doing something about Martin Luther King's dream. You have a dream of taking care of our senior citizens, looking out for them, showing them how to fill out their papers and taking care. That's a dream.
Thank you, Miss Luper. We certainly try. We certainly try. And I found out you can't help yourself without helping somebody. When you help somebody else, you're helping yourself. But like you say, you have to have a mind geared in the right direction. You can't have a mind hooked on drugs and dope and trying to help somebody. But if you keep a level head, and I found out, Miss Luper, the only way we can keep a level head is let Jesus help us, because he's the only one that can do it.
Well, one thing about it, Jesus is not going to come down here and tell these people not to kill, not to steal. He has put it in words. He has had it passed on from generation to generation, and we're going to have to see Jesus in others because a lot of people are looking for Jesus, and Jesus is already here.
You are so right, Miss Luper. I have to agree with you.
Okay, I want
I
you.
have to
I
agree.
okay.
It is in our action.
It's in our action.
Yes.
Because people sing on Sunday and then
All
kill
right.
on Monday.
Now you sure is right, Miss
And it's
Luper.
a different way to kill. We kill people's reputation.
That's
We kill
right.
people's
That is
dreams.
right.
But I want to know from my most intelligent audience, what are you going to do about Martin Luther King's dream? Do you have a dream? Are you motivated to go to school and study and go to the top of your class? I want to know what your dream is all about. Now, Martin Luther King was dedicated to social changes. Do you see any areas that need to be changed? And thank God for Jesse Jackson, who spoke out against discrimination in sports, where we can bounce the ball, where we can kick the ball, where we can run with the ball, but then when it comes to sitting in an office to make decisions, we can't do it. I want to know what your dream is and what you're going to do about your dream. Now, we have too much crime. That's not a dream. That's a nightmare if you don't believe it. If you don't believe it, look around. One of the saddest days of my life was the other day when I saw them pull this lady out of that hole. Oh, my heart bled. Tears ran down my cheek. Why would anybody kill anybody? That's not a dream. That's a nightmare, and it's going to continue to affect all of us. This is the Clara Luper radio show, and I want you. I know you're ready to shout, oh, thank God for Martin Luther King, but what are you willing to do? Hello?
Yes. I
Yes.
was calling you, and I was listening to your program. I'm white myself, and I have 4 sons that I've raised to believe that Martin Luther King was a good man. But I have a black neighbor that's just simply awesome with his kids. He's got 5 children that are all into college now, and I've watched Bob and Ann raise their children, and they have taught high values to their children, taught them to get an education, taught them to work hard. He's one of the best neighbors I've ever had, and I think that's Martin Luther King right there. It's what he wanted. I think it's up to all of us, of any race, to all get along and live those principles of peace and cooperation that Martin Luther King wanted. And I agree with what you're saying, that whether you're white, black, or whatever, dreaming about robbing somebody is the wrong way to go, or whoever you are. You need to work, get your education, live the law. And I enjoy your program. I just want to tell you thank you.
Well, I really thank you, and I thank you for not moving out, because somewhere I read that once a black moves in a neighborhood, it becomes a half and half. Half for sale. And you have been able to stay in a neighborhood with black neighbors.
Well, our neighborhood has a lot of different races in it. We live down Norman, and you have a lot of different. It's never. I don't think there's any big deal about it. People just evaluate people for people. Good people are good people, and those who aren't living the law and doing right, they're, regardless of their color, they're doing wrong. So there's not any different way to evaluate it.
I really appreciate it, and certainly I appreciate that voice, because Oklahoma needs to hear more voices like yours.
Well, appreciate your show, and I'll let you go.
Well, thank you. We've got to now speak out. We've got to speak out at crime. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense for a nation to pay more to keep people in prison than to educate them. And we've got to teach our children some basic common sense. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not rob. Thou shalt not curse. Thou shalt develop their selves. Well, I told you that Martin Luther King was committed to improving himself. That's why he went to Morehouse College. That's why he believed and studied Benjamin Mays' words. That's why he went on to get a PhD at Boston University. He didn't stop. He continued to study. That's why he traveled. And then I told you that Martin Luther King was committed to social change. When you see something wrong, are you able to speak out against it? Not only speaking out, because anybody can talk that talk.
That's true.
But I'm talking about, are you able to stand up and say it's wrong? And finally, Martin Luther King was committed to something that was bigger than himself. Committed to the belief in something that was eternal. I had the opportunity to come in contact with Martin Luther King in 1955. I was so impressed with his thinking, his philosophy, his leadership, his dedication. And I was also impressed with the people in Montgomery, Alabama, who was willing to follow a young man. Because most people would say, oh, Martin Luther King is young and out of school and he doesn't know. But they followed him. And most of all, I was impressed with his dynamic, warm personality. You know, it's a lot of people that's so mean until when you say hello to them, you say, oh my God, what kind of lemons do they have? And incidentally, I brought a big lemon back from Phoenix, Arizona. And I want to give somebody that lemon. I want to give it to one person that you know who doesn't ever smile, who's real stuck up. I would like to present them that lemon. If you know anybody who doesn't smile, you know anybody that hates everybody, you know anybody that's mad, call me here, 672-1220, and I will have that lemon delivered. It's a big one. It's a pretty one, a lemon. Martin Luther King dreamed of a better day, not only for himself, not only for his people, but for this nation. And if we would do nothing else during this holiday, but renew the old dream that's in us. He made it plain to us. We all want to be important. And Martin Luther King told us how we could be important. We can be important by helping others. If I can help somebody as I travel on life's way, then my living will not be in vain. Today I'm asking you a question. If I had asked you to talk about Martin Luther King, this telephone been just ringing off. Oh, Martin Luther King was great. But I want to know about you. I want to know about your dream and how much you are willing to pay for it. You mean to tell me that some of you don't understand what I'm saying? I'm talking about you. You ushers, you deacons, I'm talking about you and your dream. What is your dream? And are you willing to read something so you'll know something? Are you willing to expose your mind for something? I heard somebody say that, what was it? Martin Luther King said that mind is a terrible thing. That wasn't Martin Luther King who said that. But I want you to read. I want you to get your quotes right. I want you to make sure that you understand what you're talking about. And then finally, I want you to understand that Martin Luther King was so wrapped up in freedom, justice, and equality until it didn't matter what color you are. Some of your worst enemies can be people of your own color. If you don't believe it, go to Somalia. I want you to look at those people up there while you're talking about your African American heritage. I want you to visit Somalia. See how you would survive over there. Clans and things fighting. I want you to do it.
Miss Luper, you said something a few moments ago. You said you're important by helping others. And, you know, I was thinking about, you know, many times we think, well, being president, governor, or city councilman, that makes an individual important. So you have said a mouthful. You have let us know this very day there's not a human being on the face of this earth that cannot be important, because all of us can help somebody.
But that's important. That's important because it doesn't make any difference whether you're a senator, representing the thing. You're no better.
So
and I would like to say that.
Across the head.
That's right.
See, since we want to feel important, just go help somebody.
Just go help somebody. That's what Martin Luther King said. And I'm asking you, while you're shouting, oh, Lord, yes, yes. Remember, Martin Luther King said you can be important by helping someone. And I know that you can be important because you are important. This is Clara Luper. Hello?
Good morning, Miss Luper.
Yes.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm fine this morning.
Good. This is one of your former students out of Dungey, Nathaniel Mosley.
Yes, Mr. Mosley.
And I was wanted to let you know that we are continuing to dream with our children. We're expressing to them that they can be anything in this world, that they can do anything because they are not, there's nobody better than anybody else.
Thank you.
We're all the same. And just because one do it, that don't mean that you can't do it either. You can do the same thing. You can be better. You can be the president. You can be whatever you want to be. But you the drive and the ability and the want to do it. And a lot of times that starts with the parents. I feel that we as parents have let our kids down because we have stopped giving them the values that we have.
Okay, that's the way you feel.
That's the way I feel.
What are you doing about his dream?
What am I doing about his dream?
Mm-hmm.
I am teaching the kids that to take every initiative. I myself, I'm assistant coach. We are piloting the kids. We're telling the kids to get their education. I myself, I've spent community hours working with kids, breaking them, telling them to go into different fields, not only in athletics, but different psychologies and stuff, different things. And I am every day. I have been like the only driver in a predominantly white business, and they don't understand why I was able to last so long. I told them, I said, because I feel I can do just as good a job as anybody else, and
Um,
therefore that allows somebody else to come into that business to probably give them a second chance.
well, I think you have spoken the words of Martin Luther King today. His true meaning is going in there doing your best. And thank you so very kindly for calling me.
Thank you, Miss Luper.
Okay, well, you people that's going to do so much. I can hear you singing your songs. I can see you shouting, and I can hear you preaching. But then when we look at the situation that we are in today, I hear a lot of people talking about how bad people's children are. Okay, then I have some news for you. Get your pencil and paper. If the children are so bad, there are 50,000 black children in foster homes today. Why don't you adopt one? How many of you know deacons out there that have adopted children? How many of you know preachers? Since you want to cure, you want to do something about the situation. And I had a big argument with some black social workers because I think the worst thing in the world is for people to tell a person they shouldn't adopt a child because of the parent's color. Now, I think that's the worst thing in the world. I think when you get ready to adopt a child, it should be based on whether you want that child or love that child or what have you. So I'm in favor of interracial adoption. I am in favor of interracial marriages. I'm in favor of interracial churches. In fact, I would like for some of these whites that want to go to heaven, that we have a church that's located at 801 Northeast 5th Street. I would like for you to come and join 5th Street so we can have an integrated church. We once had one, but our one member moved out. We need integration, and I'm in favor of it. And if we are so religious, now let's look at our action. Here you are with good homes, you got beautiful automobiles. Why don't you adopt a child? I didn't ask you to adopt two. Why don't you adopt one? Clara Luper, hello. Hello?
Luper.
Yes?
This is Ada Davis,
Yes?
and I'm calling to. You were talking about children.
Yes.
When we came to Oklahoma City, we were pastoring at one of the local churches, and there was a young lady in the church at that time was 13, and she needed a family to take her in, and we took that young lady in today. She's in the Army. She's attending college in Atlanta, and she's working civil service because somebody cared enough to think of her. And there were those in Oklahoma City who told us I would not take a child at that age. But I would like to say that she graduated from high school, and she's doing exceptionally well because somebody else cared about her. And one of the things that we as a black people, a lot of times we don't want to help anybody else because we are saying, well, what about somebody else's genes in those children? Well, somebody had to help us. And I think that that's an issue, a big issue with us today because of what's happening to black children. Many of them are being abandoned by parents who are on drugs, but somebody has to pick up the slack. And we're seeing a lot of crack babies. That's an area that somebody has to take on. And I feel that this is a good issue, that somebody needs to help these children. But I can say that we played our part in helping this young lady, and by helping her, there were other people in that church who also took in foster children. I know one family who took in 5 foster children just by seeing somebody else do their part. So it's something that we all must do. And I'm enjoying the show today.
Well, thank you so very kindly. And y'all have helped so many people. I never shall forget one of our little boys that was helped. You helped to go to a convention. And all the way that convention, that young man was talking about you. That is really wonderful. Thank you so very kindly, okay?
Okay.
This is Martin Luther King Jr.'s National Holiday Week, and we should celebrate. How should we celebrate? We should celebrate first by improving ourselves. I have some good news for you. There's a library in your town, and you can go there and read free. Isn't that something?
Yes,
You don't
it
have to
is.
be ignorant. And if you want to know some of black history, go to Freedom Center, 2609 North Martin Luther King, and read the wall. Walk around that monument. You don't have to be uninformed. Martin Luther King prepared his mind. Not only that, he dedicated himself toward a social change. And finally, he believed in something bigger than himself. Clara Luper, hello? Okay, you may call me back. Now, I know I'm making some of you upset this morning, but you haven't been upset until we get to heaven and the Lord asks us, yeah, you talked about Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther King is up here with the angels. What did you do to help someone? And I want to tell all of you white folks how to get along with black folks. And I want to tell all the black folks how to get along with white folks. So stay tuned for the Clara Luper radio show. And don't forget, you can make pictures up to Freedom Center. Don't say you want to see black people progress and you wouldn't even buy anything from a black person. And incidentally, those of you that haven't read my book, Behold the Walls by Clara Luper, it's $14. You may call me. And don't do like one of my friends, Miss Luper, I love you. I said, but why don't you buy my book? Oh, Miss Luper, that's different. Clara Luper, hello? Hello?
Davis at Jesus Church.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Will you talk up just a bit?
All right, I'm talking now. I'm almost yelling. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, praise God. I wanted to call because I wanted you to know that there are some people that have received the dream of Dr. King. And I think it's a threefold dream. First of all, I think that I have had to do the best to become the best for myself. I mean, my first relationship to the Lord Jesus Christ is to be the best at whatever I do. Then secondly, I think it's to be the best husband, father that I can be. To get my wife and my household in order, in line with God. To have my children under obedience. To have a disciplined lifestyle. To ensure that they realize that they can be whatever it is they desire to be in line with the Word of God. And then thirdly is to reach somebody else's children, because I know that all the fathers are not in the households, and that's the third area. Now, I heard you earlier say were that those of us that have adopted children. Well, my wife and I adopted a young girl who came out of an unbelievable background, and we've raised her up to be one of the most gorgeous young ladies in this city. She's now living in Atlanta, Georgia. She's been over into Saudi Arabia. She's represented a country. She's a college student, a great woman of God. And I'm saying that I believe this is the level that the dream of Dr. King encompasses. Not just for one of us to make it, but for all of us to make it, and for all of us to be consciously aware of the fact that we got where we are because of somebody else's dream. Now, in doing so, then we must reach back and grab a hold of somebody else and love them through their crisis, and love them through their addiction, and love them through their promiscuity, and carry them on with us. That's the dream.
That is just so well put, Dr. Davis. You don't know how much I appreciate that. And that's a dream.
Hallelujah.
We have a lot of blacks that are headed for the inauguration. Did any of them invite you to go along? How many of you are going to the inauguration? All of you famous Democrats, and the Democrats are going in by the hundreds. I was very disappointed this week because I thought I would have the opportunity to speak to the chairperson of the Black Caucus. I saw we rode an airplane back from Phoenix last week, and we were supposed to have gotten together on Thursday, but I'm sure that she was busy. And I would like to take this opportunity once again to invite the chairperson of the Black Caucus. And I've been very critical of the Black Caucus for one reason, is because the leaders of the Black Caucus told me that if one person voted against anything, it's 5 blacks out there, and if one voted against it, it was out. And I just couldn't believe that, and I told you that, and many of you didn't believe it. And that's why I want the members of the Black Caucus to come here and tell you, because maybe that's a new handle on democracy, but it's not the kind of democracy that Martin Luther King dreamed about and worked for and gave his life for. I know you're waiting because you want to know how to get along with black people. You want to know how to get along with white people. And I'm going to tell you, and I am not an expert, but I came from Hoffman, Oklahoma, and I know the secret. It's very easy to get along with people. All you have to do is to do to others as you would have them do unto you. Just because a person is black or white or any other color, you don't have to say, oh, I love you because you're black. Oh, that's a silly reason. I think you should love a person because that person is a person. Now, if you let somebody pressure you out of your job, then you got to understand pressure. You know what pressure is? Pressure is something to make you do something that you don't have the courage to do. So when somebody start pressuring me out of my job, I just keep on walking. If they knock me down, I'll fall on my face and I'll look up. And if I look up, I will get up. Now, you can get along with white folks easy. All you've got to do with these white folks is the same thing you do to black folks. Just get along with them. Say, I love you. And no, I don't want you hollering, I love you, because I think of many men that have told their wives how much they've loved them and gone on out with somebody else. I want you to prove your love. Now, no one is called for my lemon. Now, I've told you how to get along. Just do good. Don't steal anything from anybody. Don't curse anybody. Don't kill anybody. And then don't make excuses. For example, well, you know, we've had a hard time. Do you realize if black people had gone mad and started killing people, we wouldn't be here today? Do you realize that? If you can't stand a little trouble, then stop singing, should Jesus bear the cross along and all the world go free. You have a cross. Now, don't forget, next week I want you to be here because I will be here with you, and we do have a lot of news and a lot of things to talk about. Today I've tried very hard to make you think about Martin Luther King's holiday and what it really means. Many of you will be marching tomorrow, but I don't want you to be marching with hatred in your heart. I don't want you to live on the vomit and the bowels of the past when we can move into the vitamins and the vegetables and the meat of the future. The future belongs to all of us because Jesus proved that to us and God showed it because he fixed the air so that it didn't make any difference whether you were a president or whether you were a pauper, you could enjoy the air. As I get ready to leave you, I really hate to leave you because you know I'm still working on the Freedom Garden and I need your support. And your support is in terms of not talking about how you love Clara Luper. You save that for a later day. But in the meantime, I would like for you to go by Freedom Center. I'll go by Mr. Gates and say, I want to see this because it's beautiful. I would like to call for an emergency meeting of all of the members of the Martin Luther King Avenue Enhancement and Historical Committee Wednesday morning at exactly 10 o'clock at Freedom Center, and I expect you to be there. This is Clara Luper saying, Happy Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day. Let's make it happy by loving each other. Bye-bye.
That's the greatest commandment.